Hello, everybody. I'm Ann Tucker for today. We'll just wait a few more come in. I think there's a way to disable the waiting room. Let's see. See it. No. So I'll just keep an eye on it all the way through. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. I know it's the time changes periodically, so it's 2 o'clock here in the Pacific Northwest. Don't know what it is where you are. I know Anne normally gives an intro about what Wisdom Soup is and why she started it. I could just quickly say that she started it to create a community of like-minded people when she just got onto her spiritual path. And she's been really successful at it because it's a community that's held together for years now, in person a lot, meeting up in person as well as online. And her reach is quite extensive now with all the online stuff that she does, which is really cool. So what we have today is Alina Frank is joining us. She's the co-director of the top independently rated EFT Tapping Training and Certification program in the US. She's the co-director of the Science of Tapping film project, best-selling author of How to Want Sex Again. I didn't know you could have it more than once. And contributing author of 8 books on EFT tapping. She lives and plays on Whidbey Island in Washington, so she's not far from where I am in Edmonds. But we'll let you introduce yourself, Alina. Thanks for joining us and share who you are and what you're going to do for us today.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Michael, and thank you for everyone at Wisdom Soup. I appreciate coming on here and talking to people about my favorite tool. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. There we go. So I would suspect that if you are on a healing journey or a spiritual path and are in any way, shape, or form into the holistic side of things, you have heard of EFT, also known as tapping. And I am here to kind of help you differentiate between a lot of what's out there in the mainstream and what we do, which is teach clinical, evidence-based, research-validated EFT. Back in the day when I found EFT, I was lucky enough to only find one source, which was from the founder, Gary Craig. I think if I would, well, I know that if I were to go on today and do some searching around for how to heal myself of an autoimmune condition, or how to work with my money issues, or how to work with my relationship problems, which are all things that I had when I was out there looking for a tool to help me, I would have found a million YouTube videos and tapping scripts and tap-alongs that would have left me feeling that maybe I was getting a little bit of relief, but I would have given it up and thrown it on the heap of all the other techniques that I had used that weren't really helping me. And I was fortunate enough to find just one source. This was 19 years ago. And that was the founder, Gary Craig's website and information. And I immediately started feeling better because I knew when he said that unresolved events, really impactful traumas, big T and small t traumas, were kind of at the core of a lot of issues. I knew exactly what had happened to me, which was I had a stillborn, and 6 months later, I developed an autoimmune condition. And I felt like I had processed it. I had done therapy. I had done grief counseling and all these techniques to help me with the grief part. And I could just tell you, yeah, I'm fine. I'm over it and all that. It was like it was trapped in my body and my cells. And when I found EFT, I really just went to town on all of the different aspects around that event. And lo and behold, I started feeling better. I immediately started, so this was like 19 years ago, back before even Skype was a thing. And so I live on Whidbey Island. Most of my family lives on the East Coast. And I started saying, hey, you want to try this weird thing I found on the internet? And I was getting amazing results. I was really dumbfounded with what was happening with the people that I was helping. And I decided to open a practice. And that's how I got started. And yeah, I thank the founder for creating EFT. And back about 15 years ago, he just decided, I'm going to have an open hand policy. I'm going to allow anyone to use it. I'm not going to regulate it. I don't want to be the EFT police. And that's when you had all of the proliferation of just like all of these different versions out there, which are global. What I mean by that is, so if I were to go onto the internet and type in EFT for autoimmune, I would get someone tapping and I would be repeating their words. But how could they possibly know that my issue, my autoimmune condition, was related to the death of my daughter? There's no way. So we're looking for specific events. We're honing in on specific events, and we're clearing them. And the way that we can talk about what EFT is, I'm always looking for building a bridge to people's existing belief systems because it's so radically different than anything out there. And there is a body that is looking to prevent the US government from really coming in and regulating all energy healers. So my husband was on a committee to see if we could find some common language. And you can imagine what that was like for 2 years. It was like, herding cats. You had people that were faith healers, and snake charmers, and people doing like Reiki and, family constellations, like, so all the whole variety of things. And they were trying to find common language. And so what are we going to call this thing? And how can we define it in a way that many people understand? They came up with this definition, which is that it is a very effective cognitive, emotional, energetic stress reduction technique. And it can be used as a self-help technique. And you can do like what I did for myself, but it also can be incorporated into clinical practice. The vast majority of people that we train these days are either life coaches or they're already doing some kind of healing work. They're doing massage and they want to have an online practice. They're doing coaching and they feel like they're hovering at 30,000 feet and never landing or getting to the core of things. Or they are licensed mental health care professionals working with trauma. And that's the vast majority of people that we're training these days. But it is quite effective. And when you're doing it, the right way. So when my husband came across, the way that we met was, he's a chiropractor on Whidbey Island in a town of 786 people in Langley. I really thought I knew all of the alternative healthcare professionals. I thought I knew all the chiropractors. I certainly knew all the Jews on the island. And then lo and behold, I started working on myself and my relationship issues. And this guy who I'd never heard of asked me to speak at his office. And the rest is history. We met. We're like, where have you been? This is so bizarre. Many shared life experiences. And I can say now 13 years in, married, and 15 years in relationship. He's the love of my life. And I'm very grateful to him for putting aside his skepticism. So what he was on an intense sort of healing journey himself, and had challenged himself to try new things. And he said, what is out there that is beyond my belief system? And he had been on on Joe Mercola's newsletter for many years as a subscriber, and had seen this EFT thing, and heals everything, heals depression, heals anxiety, cures phobias, gets rid of addictions, helps with manifesting. Like, it was just so beyond his belief system that he said, you know what, I'm on a spiritual path. I'm gonna really push myself and challenge myself, and I'm gonna see if there's somebody on the island who's doing this weird EFT thing. And he found me, and so I spoke at his office. And so when and that was the night that changed my life. So what finally got across to him in my presentation that evening was, you can attribute every one of those things that I mentioned. So physical conditions, addictions, cravings, all kinds of financial problems, relationship problems, anything that you can name, because we're human beings, it can be affected by stress. And even the stress of thinking about the condition that we have is enough to prevent our bodies from fully having all of the resources it innately has to help heal itself. So we hear these amazing things about EFT. It's not that we are it's not even the tool. It's not us as the practitioner. It is actually that the body can and will help itself and heal itself when it has the stress burden taken off of it. And so that's when you make that connection, like everything is related to the stress I feel about something, or the stress of the situation that led to my condition, then it makes sense that we can help many things. So there is a movement afoot, because some of you know that EFT is based on the Chinese meridian energy system. It's the same system that's used in traditional acupuncture. And we now can start moving away from it's this weird energy thing. It is a disruption in the energy system. We can move to a more scientific approach, which opens more doors. And one of the things that we've seen in the last few years is that they've been able to map with sensitive instruments something they're calling a premovascular system. And so it corresponds with the traditional Chinese medicine meridians. And so we can point to that as like, oh, there is this thing that's flowing through us, and we can see it. Some people need that kind of validation and proof. Like I said, it's a self-regulation tool as well as a therapeutic intervention. And it was created by Gary Craig, who was a student of Roger Callahan. So Roger Callahan in the late 1990s was looking for something to help his clients. He was a psychologist based in the Bay Area, and he was also studying traditional Chinese medicine at the time. He had a client of his that came to his home office, and she had been working on the fear of water. And Roger had been working with her for a long time and not getting very far. And one day she was sitting across from him and described the fear of water sort of happening in her stomach. She felt like this tightness in her stomach. And whatever compelled him, he reached over and he tapped on this meridian endpoint, which is what we tap on, one of the points that we do in the sequence. He tapped on this point, which corresponds with the stomach meridian. It was what we call a 1-minute miracle. We have those. It's amazing to witness. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes we really do need persistence, but for this one day, miracle happened. She jumped out of the chair. She runs to his backyard where he has a pool. And I mean, she was at the point when he was working with her that she couldn't get into a body of water or even take a shower without having a panic attack. And so she walks into the water and she goes up to here and he panics. What's happening? And she said, don't worry, Dr. Callahan, I know I can't swim. But from that day forward, she no longer had that fear. Roger Callahan's process was pretty complicated and very expensive to learn. He was only teaching therapists at the time, and somehow he let this life coach, NLP master, spiritual guy, Gary Craig, into a course. Gary paid him $100,000 to learn what Roger knew, and said, you know what, I'm an electrical engineer by training. I think it's all one circuit. Let me simplify this and let's give it to the masses because I think it's a gift from God. And so you know, one day I'd like to have a meeting with Gary. I know Gary. I'd like to have a meeting like over a drink sometime and ask him why Roger never sued him, because Roger passed away a few years ago, but Roger ended up suing a lot of people that took the technique and did all kinds of things with it. He never did with Gary. So I don't know what the story is. I'd love to know one day, hear what the scoop is on that. So yeah, that's how it all started. And that's how I found it. It was through Gary Craig. And I became certified and trained through Gary. And then I have been a trainer for 4 different EFT organizations. The one that I'm involved with now is EFT International, which is the largest, most well-established EFT organization in the world, based in the UK. So when to use EFT? Whenever you're feeling some stress, whenever you're feeling anything in your body somatically, when you're feeling anxious about future events, and when you're feeling overwhelmed, overactivated, when you are thinking about stopping a behavior or shifting a behavior or a negative thought pattern. When you use it after an incident, after a trauma, after any kind of big T trauma, whether it's a natural disaster or any kind of sexual injury, or thinking about the past when you were injured physically. Of course, we have some protocols that are for you to use with a practitioner or with a licensed mental health care professional to work on some of the big T traumas. We don't advise for you to do that on your own, but there are plenty of things that you can do on your own. So what is the evidence that exists for EFT? I know that in Wisdom Soup, I had sent ahead of time access, a 12-hour access to our film, The Science of Tapping. I'm not the science person, my husband is. And when I was out there trying to get my foot in the door in various agencies to provide continuing education, to present at the community education program at the hospital, I really needed to be able to build a bridge between what we have as, real evidence and some research and like being able to talk about it or to have some other tool be able to present the science in a very clear and powerful way. And so I love him because he took what I said and I said, I need a tool, I need a film, I need something. And so we were not filmmakers. We absolutely went on the hero's journey to be able to create that film. And what you got was a 12-minute presentation that we give to decision makers and our students when they're taking our training. They watch that as well. So we went down the path of creating the Science of Tapping film. Hope you watched it. And just the 12-minute segment, there's like 3 hours of different kinds of clips that you can use for presentation. So anyway, it presents all of this, but here we go with all kinds of studies, 3 fMRIs, hundreds of case studies, 5 meta-analyses. We've got tons and tons of research on phobias and depressions and anxiety and PTSD. And yeah, list is growing every day. Here are some physiological markers of health. So this happened over a training. So if you can imagine that you end up going to one of our level 1 and level 2 trainings, we're having people tap along the whole time. And this they measured before the 3-day training and after the 3-day training, and this is what they found. Pretty impressive stuff. And all kinds of anxiety, dental phobias, just one of the things that have been studied. I was part of a group that was offering 6 free EFT sessions to combat veterans in about 2008. It wrapped up in 2009. And it was pretty amazing stuff that happened. As a result of that, I was asked to do some training for therapists in the VA. And we set up some intensive trainings near like Fort Lewis McChord. And so this is a little meme that I created because I have gotten to the point where I see that it is a blessing that it did go out as widely as it did, even though the downside sometimes is really frustrating that there are so many varieties and different forms of light tapping that aren't really EFT. So I spent time helping a group, supporting a group. They were about to present it on the base, and the night before they were going in, the top brass decided to Google EFT, went on YouTube and found someone doing EFT for their cat, and said, "I don't think so. Are you serious? Like, no, this ain't happening here." So we're trying to say, okay, can we have a clear message out there that clinical EFT is not tapping, but kind of the genie is out of the bottle. And so I made this meme one day when I was frustrated. I'm like, I'm going to make light of this. Yeah, for me, it's all about building bridges. What can I say? So if I'm talking to a physician, I'm not going to talk about the energy part of it. I'm going to talk about how there's proof that it decreases cortisol quite significantly. That's enough to get someone's attention. So I'm sure that all of you have, because I know there are a lot of alternative healthcare professionals here in this group. I'm sure you run across that as well. You just got to know who you're talking to and know what bridge to use. Here were the results of what we did with the veterans. It was incredible what happened. In fact, many of the people in the labs that were taking these measurements, they thought there was something wrong with their instrumentation and had it checked because, it was just off the charts what was happening with veterans with PTSD. And here we go. So I was part of the Veteran Stress Project. I also went to Israel, where a friend of mine trains the military. And on Whidbey Island, I offered free sessions to first responders for many years as part of a group, Whidbey CareNet. And here we go with some after just a 4-hour intensive EFT presentation. So there are lots of different hypotheses about how does this actually work. One is that these points are very close to the surface of the skin. So we're not tapping on all hundreds of the meridians, acupoints that an acupuncturist would use. We're working on certain ones that are very close to the surface of the skin. And so tapping regulates, starts sending signals to the brain and decreases the activation signals to the amygdala. and other brain structures. It could be that EFT rewires the brain, and it's sort of like a counter conditioning sort of thing. It mediates the vagus nerve and the vagus system, restoring a sense of safety. And yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of ways that different theories out there. Even the placebo theory, I think, if somebody wants to believe that, that's fine. I tell people that, they're like, well, do you have to believe in it for it to work? And I say, are you kidding? Like, who comes into my office thinking that this tapping thing is going to help them when they've tried just about everything else and nothing has helped them? That's rare that somebody comes in fully believing. Hypothesis number 5 is interesting. We met Bessel van der Kolk, who's got a great book on trauma out there. And, there is something about releasing the trauma through some kind of somatic approach, and we are tapping, we're physically moving. If you read his book, and when the body bears the burden, it might be the book. And he talks about how it was very interesting that survivors of 9/11, many of them did not end up having PTSD, and his hypothesis is because they were actually running away from the building, and so their bodies were moving actively, releasing the trauma. Okay, so basic EFT includes finding a target or a focus, and the target and focus we have like 14 different techniques. The basic EFT, though, we're looking for a specific event. We are looking for the emotion that we are feeling, and we're grading it 0 to 10. That's subjective units of distress. So it's up to you what you name it, what the level that you give it. 0 is no intensity, 10 is very intense. And then you're also checking in with your body and seeing if there is a related somatic body sensation that's connected to this. You are creating a short setup phrase to tap on, which includes a kind of self-acceptance piece. And so you say, even though I feel this emotion about that event and I feel it in this part of my body, the second half of the setup statement is I deeply and completely accept myself. You might see the word love out there. You might see all kinds of variations out there, but the clinical EFT version is I deeply and completely accept myself. You are tapping on the side of the hand, on the fleshy side of the hand, between the base of the pinky and the top of the wrist. And you're saying that statement 3 times. And then you are tapping on the rest of the points. And you're saying a short reminder phrase, which can just be as simple as the word this in front of the emotion. So this anger on the top of the head, this anger at the start of the eyebrow, this anger at the side of the eye, this anger under the eye, this anger under the nose, this anger chin point, this anger collarbone, this anger under the arm, 4 inches below the armpit on the side of the body. And then we stop and we assess what's happening. Did it go down? Did it move? Did it shift? Many times we start thinking of things that are connected to it. And that could be a reason why people think that, I didn't feel anything. It's because there's a different emotion or a different event that's deeper, a deeper level of the problem that is now coming up to the surface, sort of like peeling the layers of an onion. Okay, I see how I'm doing with time. Okay, we're about the 30-minute mark. And so I just want to, I think the group is small enough that if you have any questions before we do an actual experience here, do you have any questions?
We did get one from Geeta. I hope I'm saying that right. She asked, are these EFT techniques supposed to be used as and when one encounters a situation or emotion, or is it more like a daily practice? And
Sure.
once you've healed, do you still continue?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I just got that last night in one of our groups on social media. More EFT is not better. Better EFT is better. And so you'll see people with the app and the tap along and the script and the book, tells you to do. I don't think it's worth it to do more. I think it just needs to be very targeted and focusing in on an event. However, the reason why we say the words that we do is to bring the problem, the issue, what we're feeling about it up to the surface, where it comes into our forebrain, and it's kind of malleable so we can shift it. So it keeps us in tune with what it is that we're working on. If we are activated, if we are totally stressed out, if we are overwhelmed, if we're just like, you don't need to say anything because you're already tuned in. So a really great thing to learn are just the points. And so tapping and over and over and over again without saying anything will bring you to a place of being calm and regulated and less stressed out. And I always encourage my EFT students to share the tapping points with their clients, and tell them to use it anytime they need it, because in that kind of situation where you're triggered because your boss just yelled at you and you need to go into the bathroom to get yourself back together before you go back into a meeting, you're not going to remember what to say. You're not going to remember the formula. So in that case, tapping and tapping and tapping and tapping will resolve it. And I'm just thinking about my one of my case studies, one of my favorite case studies. It was my nephew. I was teaching in Florida, and my brother said, I really need you to help our son who has recurring warts. Do you think you can do anything for him? So I went and had a chat with him and found out the source of his stress was an overcrowded public classroom with like 35 students. And he's a very sensitive kid on the spectrum. And all I taught him to do was at night, before, in my brother's family, they say their prayers at night. I said, before you say your prayers, I want you to just talk about what happened in your day and just tap on the points. Just talk, just say it aloud, everything that bothered you, what got you upset, who made you frustrated, tap, and then say your prayers and go to bed. A few weeks later, I get the camera photo that shows like it's going away, it's going away. That was 15 years ago. They've never come back. And it was that simple to help children. I mean, you all know this. Children are very easy. They don't hold on to things. They don't have layers and layers and layers of stuff to work on. And so it's really fun to work with kids.
Well,
Okay.
Alina, there's a relevant question. Can the tapping be done only on yourself, or can it be done on another person like a child?
Yes, it can be done on yourself. It can be done with a child, and you can become a practitioner and use it, or you can use it in your life coaching business. You can use it in your therapy practice. You can use it in your chiropractic practice. So yeah, it's for children. It's very simple to guide them. They love it. They can pick it up very quickly. And the best thing is watching them go share it with all their friends on the playground. Ooh, let's go tap on your sad point on your head. And yeah, really cute stuff that happens with kids. And like I said, they don't hold on to things. Okay, so let's do some tapping here. Because I don't know you, I don't know your trauma history, I don't know how you will do with the technique. We're going to start with something that's on the safer side. I want you to think of a disturbing movie scene and make it fiction, please. Nothing on the news, nothing political, just something fictitious, a scene from a movie. One scene. So we're getting specific. We're not talking about the whole entire film, just the one scene. I want you all to keep your eyes open while you think about this. If you're closing your eyes, I can't see all of you. And also, you're more likely to stay present here where there's no fear, there's nothing going on, you're just sitting in front of your computer. Versus if you close your eyes, you might what we call time travel. You might be reliving something in your past that's connected to this, projecting something out into the future. So
would it be better if we stop sharing, Alina? Because then we'll see a bigger picture of you when you're pointing out where to tap.
Okay. Here we go.
Super.
Okay, I think you got me. All right, so do we all have one fictitious scene? That's a little disturbing. I want you to give it an emotion. What emotion is it? Think about the emotion. What emotions? Thinking about it right now, what is the emotion? And let me hear some things. Put it in the chat if you want to. I want to hear what it is. What's the emotion here? As you're thinking about it now, what's the emotion? Fear, anger and sadness, panic, terror. Okay. All right, let's get tapping. All right. So for the person that has anger and sadness, I want you to pick one. It doesn't matter which one, pick one. All right. I want you to start tapping on the side of your hand. And I want you to guess at the level of intensity, 0 to 10. How strong is that? How strong is that emotion right now? 8. Okay.
Alina, could you hold your hand up a little further so we can see what you're doing? Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. So we've got a number, we've got the emotion. One more thing. Do you feel that anywhere in your body? Do you feel that anger somewhere in your body? Do you feel that terror? Is it a tightness? Is it constriction? Is it pressure? Is it energy somewhere? So you're going to name that. Okay. So you're going to repeat after me, and I'm going to allow you to fill in the blank. Does it matter left hand or right hand? No, it's easier if you're tapping using your dominant hand on your non-dominant hand, but you can also do both at the same time. We don't have dismantling studies that say, oh, this is more effective than that. But yeah, most people use their dominant hand to tap on the side of their non-dominant. Okay, so you're going to repeat after me, and you're going to insert your own words. Even though, aloud, even though no one's hearing you, you're all on mute. I feel this emotion, fill in the blank.
Even though I feel anger.
Thinking about that movie scene. And I feel it in what part of your body? I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I feel this blank emotion about that movie scene, and I feel it in my what body part? I deeply and completely accept myself. Eyes open, eyes open. We want you here now where there is no danger. Even though I feel this emotion, thinking about that movie scene, and I feel it in I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay. Tap on the top of the head and the word this in front of the emotion. This. Okay, start of the eyebrow. This. Fill in the blank with your emotion. Side of the eye. This. Under the eye. This. 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 And this. 4 inches below the armpit on the side of the body. Okay. Now we stop and we measure again. 0 to 10. Go ahead and give me the before you started number and then now thinking about it number in the chat. 10 to 8, 2 to 0. 8 to 4. Okay. So that I expect it to go down. I expect it to go down like to a large degree. If I were working with a person that went from 10 to 8, I would ask questions to see if it is truly still the same emotion, still in the same body part, still the same scene, because they could be thinking of, oh, something like that happened to me. And that's typically what you'll see when someone says it's not working for me. It's either too global, not specific enough, or they're shifting to something else. And that is the benefit of working with a practitioner, because they will track all of those things. Let's do something somatically. So I want you to just tune into your body now. Do you feel tension or tightness or constriction? All right. You're going to give that the level of intensity on the sensation. How strong is that sensation? So when I turn my neck, I can feel a little bit of a tension here on the right side of my neck. Be as specific as you can be. Is it a tightness, a tingling, a numbing, a radiating, a throbbing? Is there temperature? Is there color? What location is it? It's not just your neck, it's the right side, right at the base of my neck. Or is it above my knee or in my knee, on the left side of my inner knee, on the left knee, on the right knee? So as specific as you can be. Let's try to work on some somatically on this. Throbbing in my left eye. Great. Okay, and you got a number on the sensation. Yeah? Let's try. What if it's a specific pain that you don't have all the time? Yeah, for this technique, you do need it to be up, right? All right, so even though I feel this sensation, which you're going to describe, location, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I feel this sensation, description, location, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I feel this in I deeply and completely accept myself. At each of the points you're going to describe, where is it and the description. This pain in my next point. Describe it, location, side of eye. This pain in my, that feels like. Next point. Description, location. Next point, under the nose. Description, location. Chin point, again, description, location. Collarbone, description, location. Under the arm, description, location. Okay, check it out. Does it feel any different? Give me numbers before and after. Seven to 5. 8 to 5. 8 to 0. So my husband likes to say, if I had a magic pill that I were promoting that had someone's pain level dropped by 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% in 1 minute, you'd have every pharmaceutical company trying to beat down the door to figure this out. But it's EFT, it's an energy thing, right? Oh yeah. So what do we think is happening here when we're just describing the physical sensation? We think that the brain is actually connecting it. The subconscious mind actually is connecting it to what the stressors are that are involved. So you can try that technique. It's one of the simple ones. First, it doesn't always work, but hey, in a pinch, you're feeling something in your body. Of course, check with a doctor always, but this is something that is pretty cool and easy to pull out and remember. So let me go back to, whoops. Go back to sharing my screen. So we have a few minutes for some more questions. And for more information, you can visit EFTtappingtraining.com. We have our next training, a level 1 and level 2 combination starting next Thursday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific online. And if you use this coupon code, you will get $100 off. Wrote up that coupon just for the participants of Wisdom Soup. 100 off EFT online. Okay. Any questions?
Well, thank you, Alina, for that. That was really good. I really loved the background. That was fascinating because I hadn't heard that before, and I've been to many EFT presentations, or I should say found myself at them. Didn't necessarily know that's what they were when I walked in the room.
Yes.
And if you ever get the scoop from Gary Craig, you have to let us know because you've created an open loop there. And it's also interesting to note that EFT can help you find your future partner like it did for you. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I love it for. I've been teaching how to find your earthmate soulmate for the last 15 years. And it's about removing the blocks that are preventing you, like the things that have happened in the past, the patterns, what you feel you deserve, and making sure the universe knows very clearly what you're looking for in a partner and not settling, and working on your past stuff that prevent you from feeling like you're worthy or deserving or can ask for what you want. Yeah, for sure. And so again, it doesn't matter which side of hand, tap each other's hands and voila, you have a partner. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Thank you all very much. This was lovely.
Can I ask you, do we still have access to the 12-minute film? And is there a URL for getting that? And you could just say Anne will send it out with this if that's possible.
It was Anne's assistant that asked me for the write-up and the description of this presentation. I sent it to her. So if you can't find it for some reason, I'd be happy to.
We'll have it. If she has it, we'll have it. As long as it's still available, it'll be handy for people to know.
Yeah.
And she will also have links for people to get in touch with you. We'll put them with it too.
Okay.
Do appreciate your time and the simple way you explained it and the very scientific background approach. Has anybody got any questions? While we still have the expert in the room, you're all going to think of 10 questions right afterwards.
So we have a mighty network for EFT. We have EFT tapping, EFT Emotional Freedom Techniques tapping on Facebook. It's the largest EFT Facebook group. You can find us there. Yeah, or on our website, we have our Mighty connected to that. There's a forum. We have a Ask the EFT Experts every month where you can submit questions ahead of time. How do you teach yourself this? Yeah, so you can go to EFTtappingtraining.com. If you sign up for the newsletter, you will get a quick start guide to help you work on yourself, because there are definitely things that you can do on your own. Okay.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
All right, thank you, Michael.
All right. See you.
Yeah, there is some kind of certification. Yeah, it's all there. It's all on the website. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.